She's pregnant and not dead!
The morning sun blazed over Oakwood Memorial Cemetery, casting golden light across manicured lawns that stretched toward the horizon. White silk drapes encircled the funeral pavilion, rippling gently in the warm breeze. Inside, hundreds of mourners stood motionless, a sea of black suits and dresses, their faces etched with sorrow. The mahogany casket rested on polished brass rails above the freshly excavated grave, adorned with cascading white roses and gold fixtures that caught the light. Beneath the casket, fresh earth waited to receive its burden. Inside lay Isabel Anderson, heiress to the Anderson pharmaceutical empire, one of the nation's most powerful women, beloved philanthropist, and 6 months pregnant. Her auburn hair framed her porcelain face like a halo. Her eyes were closed, her skin pale as marble. Her hands lay folded across the gentle swell of her belly, as if even in death she cradled the child within. At the head of the casket stood Bill Anderson, Isabel's husband of 3 years. A black silk handkerchief trembled in his grip as he pressed it to his face. His shoulders shook. Tears glistened on his cheeks, the image of a man shattered by grief. Pastor Williams opened his leather-bound Bible, the pages rustling in the quiet. "Let us bow our heads for the final prayer," he began, his voice heavy with solemnity. The crowd shifted, heads lowering in unison. 2 cemetery workers in dark uniforms stepped forward, their hands reaching for the lowering mechanism. The moment had come. Isabel Anderson and the child she carried would be committed to the earth. Then a voice exploded through the sacred silence like a gunshot.
Dead!
"Stop! Don't lower that casket!" Every head snapped up at once. Gasps cut through the crowd like ripples across still water. Phones emerged from pockets, lifted high, recording. Collective breath was held. From the back of the assembly, pushing through the rows of stunned mourners, came a black man in a green maintenance uniform. His yellow work gloves were still on his hands. Dirt streaked across the fabric. His face was contorted with desperate urgency, sweat beading on his forehead despite the morning cool. A name badge was clipped crookedly to his chest pocket. Franklin Lawson, groundskeeper. People parted before him like a wave breaking against shore, some recoiling, others frozen in shock. He moved with the force of a man possessed, his breathing ragged, his eyes wild but focused, locked on the casket. Franklin stopped at the edge of the carpeted platform where the casket rested. He spun to face the crowd, his chest heaving. His voice rang out, raw and breaking but absolutely unwavering. "She's not dead. That woman is alive. And so is her baby. I'm begging you, don't bury her." The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted in whispers. "Who is that? Is he with the cemetery? Why is he here? Someone call security." Bill Anderson's face transformed. The grief vanished like smoke, replaced by something cold and hard as stone. His jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed into slits. "Get this man out of here," Bill said, his voice sharp as a blade. "Now." 2 security guards in dark suits moved forward, their hands outstretched to grab Franklin. But he sidestepped them, keeping his eyes locked on the crowd, on the casket, on the woman inside. "Listen to me." Franklin's voice cracked with emotion. His yellow-gloved hands trembled as he pointed at Isabel. "My name is Franklin Lawson. I work here, and I'm telling you, this woman is not dead. Her baby is not dead. Someone poisoned her. Someone gave her a drug that slows her heart, that makes her look gone. But she's still here. They're both still here." The murmurs grew louder. A woman gasped. A man shook his head in disbelief. Pastor Williams cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Sir, I examined her myself. The doctor certified. The doctor lied." Franklin's voice rose, desperate now, pleading. "He's part of it. They planned this. I heard them last night, talking about a quick burial, about how no one would know about the money." "That's enough," Bill roared, his composure shattering like glass. His face flushed red. This man is insane. He's desecrating my wife's funeral. Guards. The security guards moved in again, but Franklin stood his ground. His voice broke as he spoke, tears streaming down his face. Please, please, I'm a father. I know what it means to lose someone, but you don't have to lose her, you don't have to lose that baby. Just check. Just let me show you. She has a pulse. The baby has a heartbeat. I can prove it. A ripple of uncertainty swept through the crowd. Heads turned toward one another. Whispers intensified. What if he's right? A pregnant woman. We should at least check. This is ridiculous, someone muttered. But then, from the third row, an elderly black woman stepped forward. Her silver hair was pulled back in an elegant bun, her face lined with age and wisdom. She wore a simple black dress and carried herself with quiet dignity. Wait, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a bell. All eyes turned to her. My name is Ruth Williams. I was Isabel's nanny when she was a girl. I helped raise her. Her voice trembled with emotion. That child was like my own daughter. And if there is even the smallest chance, that she and her baby are still alive. She turned to look directly at Franklin, then at the casket. Then we owe it to her to find out. Let him check. What harm can it do if she's truly gone? But if she's not? Her words hung in the air like a prayer. The crowd shifted. Murmurs of agreement began to ripple outward. She's right. For the baby's sake. Just check. What's the harm? Bill Anderson's face went pale. His hands clenched into fists. This is madness. But Ruth Williams stepped closer to the casket, her hand reaching out as if to touch Isabel's still form. Let him try, she said firmly, her eyes glistening with tears. Let him try. And in that moment, Franklin Lawson, invisible, dismissed, a black man in a green uniform with dirt on his gloves, became the only thing standing between Isabel Anderson and her grave, between an unborn child and eternal darkness. His hand trembled as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glass vial filled with clear liquid. This is the antidote, he said, his voice barely above a whisper now, speaking to everyone and no one. If I'm wrong, I'll leave and never come back. But if I'm right... He looked down at Isabel's still face, at her hands folded over her pregnant belly. If I'm right, then 2 lives depend on what happens in the next 60 seconds. The cemetery fell silent once more. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. And Franklin Lawson, the man nobody saw, the man nobody heard, the man whose voice shouldn't have mattered, stepped forward to save 2 souls from being buried alive. Franklin shoved past a woman in a wide-brimmed hat, her indignant gasp lost in the growing clamor. His yellow work gloves, grimy from a morning spent digging, were a stark, defiant splash against the sea of expensive black fabric. Franklin Lawson, groundskeeper, he shouted again, his voice cracking, as if the title alone would lend him credibility. She's not dead. Someone gave her a drug, a slow poison. The doctor, he's in on it. Bill Anderson's face, a mask of aristocratic disdain, hardened. Security. Remove this lunatic. The words dripped with an unspoken insinuation, a dismissal of the help, daring to challenge his grief. Franklin sidestepped the advancing guards, his eyes pleading with the bewildered faces around him. I'm a father. Please, would you bury a pregnant woman, a baby, without checking? Whispers snaked through the crowd. Crazy? Disrespectful. But also, what if? The tension coiled tighter, a silent battle for belief. Ruth's steady voice, imbued with the weight of history and affection, cut through the rising panic. Let him check, she insisted, her gaze firm on the casket, on the child she'd known. For Isabel. For the baby. The crowd wavered, a collective breath held captive by the sheer audacity of Franklin's claim, amplified now by Ruth's quiet authority. Bill's face was a mask struggling to maintain composure, his eyes darting, betraying a flicker of true fear beneath the practiced grief. Franklin, tears tracing clean paths down his dirt-streaked cheeks, withdrew a tiny glass vial. "The antidote," he whispered, his hands trembling. A brave woman from the third row, her face pale, reached into the casket, her hand resting on Isabel's abdomen. "There's warmth," she gasped. "A faint warmth." With deliberate care, Franklin removed the cotton plugs from Isabel's nostrils. The cemetery was utterly silent as he administered the first drop. Nothing. A choked sob escaped him. "Please, God," he breathed. "Not again. Not like Maya." The second drop fell. This time a tremor, a faint twitch in Isabel's throat. Then, impossibly, her hand, pale and still moments before, lifted, fingers splaying protectively over the gentle curve of her belly. A collective gasp rose from the mourners. A shallow, rattling cough escaped Isabel's lips, followed by another, stronger. Her breathing, though ragged, was unmistakable. Someone cried out, "I feel movement. Oh my God! The baby!" As Franklin watched, his own heart pounding, Isabel's eyelids fluttered, then slowly, agonizingly opened. Her gaze, unfocused at first, found his, then dropped to her swollen belly. "My baby?" she whispered, her voice a reedy thread. "Is my baby alive?" Isabel gasped, her eyes widening, her hands clutching her belly as if to confirm the miracle. A woman, tears streaming, pressed a phone to Isabel's abdomen. "A heartbeat!" she shrieked. "Strong and clear. The baby's alive." A wave of joyous shouts and sobs swept through the pavilion. Then, Bill Anderson's facade shattered. His hand plunged into his coat, emerging with a syringe glinting ominously. "She was supposed to stay down," he shrieked, his face a contorted mask of pure malevolence. "The baby was supposed to die with her." He lunged. Chaos erupted. Mourners, galvanized by horror, tackled Bill, restraining his flailing, furious limbs. Franklin, without a thought for his own safety, threw himself over Isabel, shielding her with his body. Isabel, her voice a raw whisper of pain and disbelief, cried, "Why, Bill? Why our baby?" His answer was a venomous hiss, stripped of all pretense. "Your baby. Your money. I was nothing but a means to an end. That brat would have inherited everything. I'd get nothing." The syringe, now wrested from his grasp, was identified by a horrified doctor in the crowd. A paralytic toxin. As police sirens wailed in the distance, Bill was hauled away, screaming, "She chose that brat over me. Over US." Across the pavilion, the family doctor, pale with guilt, tried to slip away but was intercepted by furious mourners. Isabel, her hand pressed protectively to her belly, met their terrified gazes. "You would have killed my child," she whispered, her voice laced with an icy maternal fury. Several mourners, their faces etched with remorse, approached Franklin, murmuring thanks, apologies for their doubt. One white man, his voice thick with shame, confessed, "I'm ashamed I didn't believe you immediately." Paramedics rushed in, their voices calm amidst the storm, tending to Isabel and her baby as cameras flashed, capturing the unfolding drama. The story wrote itself. Pregnant billionaire saved from live burial by black cemetery worker. Days later, in the hushed quiet of a private hospital room, Isabel, pale but resolute, asked for Franklin. He arrived, his fatigue etched into his face, his small son Marcus holding his hand. Isabel, watching the boy, asked, "Why, Franklin? Why risk everything?" Franklin shifted, his gaze finding Marcus. 3 years ago, he began, his voice thick with unshed tears. "My wife Maya, she died. Cancer. Left me to raise Marcus alone." He spoke of the relentless grind, multiple jobs, taking the cemetery roll for the steady hours, for his son. "I couldn't save Maya," he whispered, a deep, abiding guilt in his eyes. "I almost gave up, so many times, but Marcus, he kept me going." The night of the funeral, he'd overheard Bill and the doctor in the parking lot. The drug worked. She's cold. Bury her fast before anyone detects the baby's heartbeat. Once they're both in the ground, everything is mine. Franklin had felt a cold dread, a mirror of his own past helplessness. I couldn't save my Maya, he repeated, his voice gaining strength. But I could save you, and your baby. I had to try, for every father who wishes he could have done more. For every child who deserves to be born. For my son, so he'd know his daddy does what's right. Marcus, nestled beside him, looked up. Daddy, you're a hero. Mommy would be proud. Isabel, tears tracking down her temples, reached for Franklin's hand, her other resting on her belly. Your Maya raised a beautiful son, Franklin, and you saved my baby's life. I will never forget this. Never. She paused, a new resolve hardening her gaze. Mr. Lawson, I want to offer you something. But first, let's make sure those men never hurt anyone again. The courtroom buzzed with a ferocious energy. Every seat filled, cameras flashing outside. A national conversation ignited around wealth, race, and the insidious nature of power. Bill Anderson, impeccably dressed, radiated an icy entitlement, while the doctor beside him visibly trembled. Charges of attempted murder, conspiracy, and medical malpractice hung heavy in the air. The prosecutor, sharp and unyielding, laid out the chilling evidence. The paralytic toxin, the syringe, the expedited burial, and the staggering financial motive. $4.2 billion if Isabel and her unborn child perished. Under the weight of the undeniable truth, the doctor finally broke. His confession a torrent of fear. He threatened to destroy me. He said no one would believe me over him, a wealthy white man. Isabel, 7 months pregnant, took the stand, her presence a living testament to Bill's depravity. I loved you, she whispered, her voice raw with betrayal. I was carrying our child. How could you? Bill's sneer was a viper's strike. That baby was just another obstacle. I wanted your money. Hospital staff testified to the falsified death certificate, the fabricated cause of death. Then, the undeniable proof. Security footage, grainy but clear, of Bill adding a murky liquid to Isabel's water glass the night before her collapse. The defense attorney, a predatory gleam in his eye, turned to face the room. The prosecution calls Mr. Franklin Lawson. A hush fell. Franklin, his resolve a quiet strength, walked toward the witness stand, knowing the fight had just begun. Franklin's voice was steady, recounting the overheard conversation with calm precision. The defense attorney, however, wasted no time in his assault. Mr. Lawson, he sneered, you're a maintenance worker, a widower living in a one-bedroom apartment. Isn't it possible you saw an opportunity here? A chance to play hero for a wealthy white woman who might reward you. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom, the racist undertones unmistakable. Franklin met his gaze, unflinching. I'm a father, he stated, his voice resonating with an unshakable moral authority. I'm a man who knows right from wrong. I don't care about her money. I care that a pregnant woman was about to be buried alive. I care that a baby would have died in that casket. You can question my bank account, but don't you dare question my character. I did what any decent person should do. I spoke up. The prosecutor rose, seizing the moment. The defense wants you to believe that a black man making $15 an hour somehow orchestrated this elaborate scheme. The only scheme here was Bill Anderson's, to murder his pregnant wife for billions. Suddenly, Bill erupted, lunging forward. That N. The judge's gavel cracked like a whip, but the venomous word hung in the air. The courtroom erupted, Bill's mask dissolving into pure, unadulterated rage. I gave her everything, he shrieked. I married beneath my station. Her parents were nobodies. I deserved that money. I deserved to be free, not trapped with some crying brat. Isabel, hands protectively on her belly, stood. You never loved me. You never wanted our baby. You deserve exactly what you're going to get. The doctor's final, broken testimony followed. I'm deeply sorry. I betrayed my oath. I deserve punishment. The judge's pronouncement was swift. Life imprisonment without parole for both. Bill was dragged away, screaming, "This is reverse racism. You believe him over me." The courtroom, defying all decorum, erupted in applause as Franklin embraced Marcus. The boy's face streaked with tears of pride. Outside, a media frenzy awaited. Isabel, radiant despite her ordeal, approached them. "Mr. Lawson," she said, a gentle smile gracing her lips, "we need to talk about your future." Isabel's estate, a sprawling canvas of green, offered a stark contrast to the courthouse's cold stone. She invited Franklin and Marcus there, her gaze earnest. "Franklin," she began, "I want to offer you a position. Head of Facilities and Safety at Anderson Pharmaceuticals, a 6-figure salary." Franklin, surprised, started to refuse. "Ma'am, I don't need charity." Isabel cut him off gently. "This isn't charity. You have integrity, courage, and you notice things others miss. I need someone I can trust to keep my company safe. Will you help me rebuild what Bill almost destroyed?" Franklin, seeing not pity but genuine respect, accepted. Marcus, beaming, received a full college scholarship from Isabel's foundation. Franklin, now in a suit instead of a uniform, quickly proved his worth. During a facility review, his keen eye caught a critical flaw in the ventilation system, a potential contamination disaster that would have cost millions and endangered countless lives. His hidden past emerged. He'd been an engineering student before Maya's illness forced him to drop out. Isabel, recognizing his untapped potential, sponsored his return to school part-time. Months later, Franklin excelled in his new role, and Marcus flourished. Then Isabel gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Maya. At the hospital, Franklin and Marcus, tears streaming, each held the tiny infant, a profound connection forming between them. A deep, platonic friendship blossomed between Isabel and Franklin, forged in shared trauma and mutual respect. Later, at Maya's grave, Franklin stood with Marcus and the baby girl, little Maya, nestled in his arms. "I saved 2 lives for you, baby," he whispered, a peace settling over him. "I did something right." 2 years melted into the past, carrying with them the last vestiges of old wounds. Franklin, his dedication unwavering, had completed his engineering degree, his intellect now fully unleashed. Marcus, thriving in private school, spoke often of becoming a doctor, a dream Franklin nurtured with pride. It was at Marcus's school that Franklin met Diana, a kind, insightful teacher, a widow herself with a bright young daughter. Their shared experiences as single parents, their quiet strength, drew them together, a relationship blooming gently, rooted in understanding. Isabel, meanwhile, had not just recovered, but soared. Baby Maya, a vibrant, curious child, was a testament to her mother's fierce spirit. Isabel's empire had grown, a testament to her unyielding will. At a grand fundraiser, Isabel was honored for her tireless advocacy for victims of domestic violence and for pregnant women's rights. Franklin, now a respected figure, was the keynote speaker. He stood before a captivated audience, sharing his story. "I was invisible," he confessed, his voice strong and clear. "A black man in a work uniform, and people saw right through me. But I had a voice and I used it. If you see wrong, speak up, even when they try to silence you." A thunderous standing ovation followed, Marcus's proud face beaming from the audience. Isabel then stepped forward, announcing a new initiative, the Franklin Lawson Courage Scholarship for children of single parents. Later, surrounded by their children, a beautiful, blended family, Diana accepted Franklin's proposal, a radiant smile illuminating her face. A new chapter, filled with love and hope, was about to begin. The cemetery, once a place of near tragedy, now held the joyous echoes of Franklin and Diana's wedding. Isabel, radiant, held baby Maya, both honored guests, while Marcus stood proudly as best man and Diana's daughter scattered petals. The intimate ceremony, held near Maya Lawson's grave, was Franklin's heartfelt tribute to his late wife. His vows, a tender acknowledgement of Maya's enduring love and the gift of Marcus, also honored Isabel for giving him back hope. 3 years later, Franklin, now VP of Operations at Anderson Pharmaceuticals, saw Marcus excelling in college on a pre-med track. Diana's daughter thrived, a vibrant addition to their family. Every year, Isabel's daughter, Maya, now 5, celebrated her namesake's birthday with Franklin's family at the grave site. A beautiful, unconventional tradition. In a quiet moment, Franklin and Marcus stood by Maya's grave, placing fresh flowers. "Dad," Marcus mused, "do you think Mom knows what you did?" Franklin smiled softly. "I think she sent me there that day. I think she knew that saving Isabel and baby Maya would save me too. Thanks for staying till the end. Please subscribe for more and comment where you are watching from. See you tomorrow."